In this tutorial, you will learn everything you need to know to start Python. Before we get started, I'm going to tell you about what you can do using Python. Python is a multi-purpose programming language, so you can use it for a variety of different tasks. You can use Python for machine learning, AI, and games. Actually, we can say that Python is #1 programming language for machine learning and data science projects. Python is also very popular in web developments. Using Python and Django, you can build amazing websites. Here are 5 popular websites powered by Python and Django: YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, Dropbox, and Spotify. So let's get started. First thing to do is downloading Python. To download the latest version of Python, head over to python.org. Go to Downloads and select latest version of Python. In your Downloads folder, you should see this installer. Just double-click it to open it. Then you're going to see this Python installer. Add Python to path. Make sure to check it because it's really important. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to follow this tutorial. Simply click on Continue. And now you have installed the latest version of Python. Next, you'll need to install a code editor. We use code editors to write our code and execute it. The most popular code editor for Python is PyCharm and Visual Studio Code. But in this case, we're going to use Visual Studio Code. You can get it from code.visualstudio.com. So on this page, click Download, and it will be instantly downloaded. Now in your Downloads folder, double-click the installer, carefully read the license, and check I accept the agreement. And then click Next. Then you can select destination location. I will just leave it as it is and click Next. Again, click Next, and some checkboxes will appear. I will check everything here and click Next. Now it is started installing. And as you can see, now Visual Studio Code is finished installing. So I will check Launch Visual Studio Code and click Finish. When you first download Visual Studio Code, you'll need to choose a theme. You can choose between light, dark, and high contrast. I will choose dark because I really like the color. You can do other adjustments to the settings, but I will leave others as it is. Now let's start creating our first project. Go to File, Open Folder, and select the file you want. Then click Select. Now click the New File button and name the file as you want. But as the file format, you should use .py. I will name my project as practice.py. Now your very first Python project is created. Let's write our first Python code. Type print, all in lower cases, then add parentheses, then quote, either a single quote or double quote. And inside this code, we are going to write hello world. So this is what we call string. String means sequence of characters. In simple words, it is textured data. In Python or many other programming languages, we should always surround the text with quotes. Print is a function built into Python, and we can use it to print the word we want. So let me show you how to run this code. Click this small button at upper right corner, then the terminal will show with the printed result. Now let's talk about variables. We use variables to temporarily store data in computer's memory. For example, we can store price of the product, person's name, their age, and family members. Let me show you. So to declare variables, you start by typing the name for the variable. Let's say donut, then add an equal sign, and then we type value, let's say 5. So with this variable, the number 5, which is the amount of donut, will be stored in our computer's memory. And we are attaching this donut price as a label for the memory location. So now we can read the value at this location and print it on the terminal. Instead of printing hello world, I want to print the value of donut. So I'm going to delete everything inside parentheses and type donut. You should never type quotes while printing variables, because when I run the program, the computer will think the variable donut is a string and print donut instead of 5. So make sure you're not using quotes while printing variables. I will click the Run button. And as you see here, it will print 5. Now we can also change the value of the variable. For example, in line 2, we can set donut to 3. Now when you run the program, we'll see 3. As you can see, our computer executes commands from top to bottom. Now I will show you a few more examples. So I'm going to declare another variable, price and tax. I will set price to 2.5 and tax to 1.95. So in Python, we can also use numbers with decimal points. We can also declare a variable with string value. So let's say customer name. When you're using multiple words in a name of variable, you should always use underscore instead of space. Also, you can use numbers in the beginning of variable's name. And for last, you can use signs in variable name. Let's come back to customer name variable. You should use single quotes or double quotes to assign the value of variable as a string. I'll name the customer name as Jacob. You also have a special kind of value called a Boolean value, which can be true or false. That is like yes or no in English. Let me show you. I'm going to declare another variable called isPaying and set it to true. You could also set it to false if you want. So this is a Boolean value. Python is really sensitive to lowercase and uppercase letters. In this case, if I use lowercase f, we can see the error here. So the false with capital F is special keyword in Python that represent Boolean false value. So this is how we can declare and use variables in Python. Now I'm going to show you how to receive inputs from the user. So in Python there is another built-in function called input. We use this to read values from the terminal window. I will show you. So we type input and parentheses, then we type here quotes for the string. Here we can type a message like how old are you? Followed by question mark, we add space. You'll see why we added space right now. Let's run the program. We get this message and now we have to enter the value. So click over here and now you can see that there's a little space right here because we've added a space right over here. So now we have to type a value. Let's say 24. When you press enter, this function will return the value that we've entered in terminal window. So we can get the value and store it in the variable. I will show you how to do it. Let's declare the variable age and set it to the return value of the input function. Now we can print a message for this user. Use the print function. We'll say your age is space. Now after the string, we want to add the value of our age variable. So use a plus sign, then type age. What you're doing here is called string concatenation. We are combining the string with another string. Let's run this program and see what happens. What is your age? We'll type 23 and it will print your age is 23. So this is how you can use input function with variables in Python. We know that there are 3 types of data in Python: string, numbers, and booleans. What if we want to convert the value of the variable from one type to another? I will show you how to do that. We are going to use input function to receive user's information, and we are going to store that value in the variable called age. So enter your age, Now let's write the code to calculate the birth year of our user. Write the year you're working on. For me it's 2023. Then minus age. This code might look correct, but it isn't, because we're subtracting string from integer, which you can think you're subtracting cake from 5. You can't subtract word cake from 5, right? In this case, Python is calculating your age as a string, not number. They're completely different types. So in this case, we have to convert our age to an integer. This is how to do that. Type int, which is a short form of an integer, then age inside parentheses. This simple code will convert string age into a number. There's also float, string, and bool, which will convert the variables into string or float or boolean. Let's just store that value inside the variable called birth year. Let's run this code and see what happens. It asks my age, so I will type 23. Then it will subtract 23 from 2023. Boom, my birth year has been calculated. It's 2000, which is correct. Now I'm going to show you a few ways of using strings in Python. I'm going to declare a variable called name and set the value to Jon Stewart. Now this string we have right here is technically an object. You can think as a remote control. This remote control is an object and it has bunch of capabilities. It has bunch of buttons for turning your TV on and off, increasing or decreasing the volume, and so on. The string is an object, so this also has bunch of capabilities. So if you type name and then dot, you can see all the capabilities available in this string object. These are basically functions that you can use, just like a print and input functions. The difference is that the print and input functions are general purpose functions. They don't belong to particular objects, but functions over here are specific to strings. So let's look at a few examples. Here we have a function or a method called upper, and we can use this to convert a string into an uppercase. So if you print here, Python will convert the letters in the name to uppercase and print it. Pretty useful. Now what you need to understand here is that this upper method does not change our original string. It will return a new string. So right after this, if we print name again, you can see that our name variable is not affected. And similarly, we have another method called lower, which converts a string into a lower cases. We also have a method called find to see if our string contains a character or a sequence of characters. For example, here we can type E, and this will return the index of our first appearance of E in our string. In Python, the index of the first character in a string is 0. So here we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So when we run this program, we'll see 7 in the terminal, because the index of E is 7. Let's run this program and see if it's correct. 7 came out, so it's correct. As I told you before, Python is really sensitive with lowercases and uppercases. So if I pass uppercase E instead of lowercase here, the -1 will appear on the terminal. That's because we don't have uppercase E in this string. We can also type sequence of characters. For example, Stewart. So this will return the index of word Stewart. Take a look. It's 5. Now there could be a time when you replace a string with something else. To do that, we use replace method. So Stewart, comma, and another name, let's say Michael. Take a look. So John Michael. Obviously, if you look for a character or sequence of characters that doesn't exist in our string, nothing is going to happen. Also, just like upper method, the replace method is not going to modify our original string, so it's going to return a new string. This is because strings in Python and many other programming languages are immutable. We can't change them once we create them. Whenever you want to change a string, we'll end up with a new string object in memory. There might be a time when you want to see if the string contains a character or sequence of characters. One way to do that is using find method we talked about earlier. So let's see if our string contains John. Now when you run the program, the index of our first occurrence of the word John in our string will appear. In Python, we can also use in operator. So we can write expressions like this. Type a string John, then in. This is a special keyboard in Python. We call this in operator. So after that we type name of our variable. So with this expression, we are checking to see if word John is in our variable name. As you can see, Python code is very easy. It's like plain English. So when we run the program, instead of seeing the index of the first occurrence of John, we see a Boolean value. This is more desirable in a lot of cases. Next, we are going to look at arithmetic operators. This is same as arithmetic operators we have in math. For example, we can add, subtract, multiply, divide, and so on. Let's print 14 plus 9. When you run this program, we'll get 23. So this is addition operator. There are sorts of subtractions, multiplication, and division. We have two different types of division. We have a division of 1 slash and with 2 slashes. I will tell you what is different. If we use a single slash, we get a floating point number that is a number with decimal. But if we use double slashes, we get an integer, a whole number. We also have a modulus operator, which is indicated by a percent sign, and this returns the remainder of division of 14 by 9. So that is 5. And finally we have the exponent operator. This is indicated by 2 asterisks. So this is 14 to the power of 9. Now for all these operators like you saw, we have an argument assignment operator. Let me explain what it means. So let's say we have a variable called x and we set it to 20. Now I want to increment the value x by 5. So we have to write code like this. X equals x plus 5. When Python executes this code, it's going to invalidate this expression. The result of the expression is 20 plus 5, which is 25 in total. So this will be the value of x. Now there's another way to archive this result using less code. We can type x plus equal 5. What you have here is exactly same as what we did before. So what you have here is augment assignment operator. We can also use subtraction here instead of addition to decrease x by 5. We can also use multiplications and so on. So now you know what are the arithmetic operators in Python. Now in Python we have another set of operators called comparison operators. We use these operators to compare values. Let me show you. I'm going to declare a variable called x and set it to an expression like this. 5 is greater than 3. So what you have here is expression called a Boolean expression because it produces a Boolean value. So in this case 5 is greater than 3. The result of this expression is Boolean true. So if we print x, we get true as a result. So here's greater than operator. We also have a greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Here's equally operator indicated by 2 equal signs. Do not confuse this with assignment operator. So here we are comparing 5 and 3 for equally. If we run this program, we'll see false, because 5 is not equal to 3. So here's equally operator. We also have not equally operator that is indicated in exclamation mark followed by an equal sign. So let's quick review. Here are the comparison operators we have in Python. Greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, equal, and not equal. These operators are really useful while you're working in Python, so never forget about this. In Python, we have another set of operators called logical operators. We use these operators to build complex rows and conditions. Let me show you. I'm going to declare a variable called price and set it to 15. Now let's print a boolean expression like this. Price greater than 10. Now let's say that you want to check if the price is between 10 and 20. This is where we can use logical AND operator. So we type AND, and right after that we type another boolean expression. So price less than 20. So with this AND operator, if both of these boolean expressions return true, the result of the internal expression will be true. Take a look. In this case, we got true because the price is between $10 and $20. We also have the OR operator. With the OR operator, if at least one of these boolean expression returns true, then the result of this internal expression will be true. To demonstrate this, I'm going to change the price to 5. Let's see how Python will execute this code. So first, it's going to look at this boolean expression. Is price greater than 10? It's not, so it will keep going. Then it will look at the second boolean expression. Is price less than 30? It is, so the result of this internal expression will be true. Take a look. There you go. We also have the NOT operator, which basically inverts any values that you're giving. Let me show you. So we are going to have one boolean expression. Price greater than 10. The result of this expression is false. Now if you apply NOT operator, this will inverse false to true. So let me run the program. And we get true. So let's quickly review. In Python there are 3 logical operators, AND which will return true when both expressions are true, OR which will return true when at least one expressions are true, NOT which inverses any value we are giving. Now we are going to talk about if statement in Python. We use if statement to make decisions in our programs. For example, we can declare a variable called price. Depending on the value of this variable, we can print different messages on the terminal. Let me show you. Here's our price variable. I will set it to 12. Now let's say if price is greater than 10, we want to print a message saying this is expensive. So we'll type if, then we type a condition, and this is where we use our comparison operator. We'll type price greater than 10. Then we'll type colon. And let's see what happens when I press enter now. The indent appeared, and this represents a block of code. So the code we write here will be executed if this condition is true. Otherwise, it's not going to be executed. Now let me show you. We are going to print it's too expensive. And notice that I surrounded the string as a double quotes, because we have a single quote here as an apostrophe. So I can't declare a string like this with single quote. The error will appear then. Let's keep going. Now if I press enter again, the indent will stay as it is. So code we write here will be part of our if block, and it's going to be executed if this condition is true. So we can print another message. Choose another one. Now to terminate this block, we press enter and shift and tab. There will be no more indents, so the code we write here will always get executed, whether the condition is true or not. Let's run the program and see what happens. So we see these two messages because the price is greater than 10. Now if I change the price to something less than 10, for example 7, and run the program again, we'll see nothing because it does not match the condition. After this block, let's print you bought all you need. Because this code is not indented, it will always get executed. It's not part of our if block. Run the program again, and you will see that our message has been printed. Now let's set second condition. So if price is not greater than 10, that means it's less than or equal to 10. The second condition will work. I will say if the price is between 5 and 10, I want to print is a common price. So here we'll type elif, which is short form of else if, and type second condition beside it. Price greater than 5. Put colon, press enter, and now we have a new block. So here we can print is a common price. So if this condition is true, which means the price is greater than 5 and less than or equal to 10, then this code right over here will be printed. Let's run our program and see what happens. We can have as many conditions as we want in Python. Elif price greater than 1 and colon. Press enter for a new block, then we'll print it's really cheap. Now if you want to make condition that is executed when none of these conditions are true, we can use else. Else is a bit different with if and elif. You should put colon right after it. Press enter for a new block, then we'll print it's free. Now let's change the value of price to 0 and see what happens. We got message it's free because none of these conditions were true. Now I'm going to talk about comment. Comment is a line of code that are ignored by the interpreter during the execution of the program. You can use this to explain what this code is when sharing the code to others. You can also use it to note it for yourself. To use comments, you just need to type $sign in front of the code you want to set as comment. I want to explain what this code is, so I will type sharp and put explanation. Comments work only for one line. It will not work if you press enter. Now I'm going to talk about while loops. Let's say that we want to print numbers from 1 to 30. You might think that you have to write print 1, print 2, print 3, and so on. Yes, you can do this. But what if you want to print this until 1000, 1 million, or 1 billion? Will you type this one by one? No, you will not. Here we can use while loops to shorten the code. While loops are used to repeat the block of code multiple times. We'll start by declaring the variable like a and set it to our initial number. Let's say 1. Then we'll type while, and here we type condition. So once again we can use comparison operators. Let's type a less than or equal to 10. As long as this condition is true, the code we write inside while block will get executed. Put colon and press enter. And now we have a block of code. In this block we can print a, and we need to increment a by 1. So we'll set a to a plus 1. If we don't do this, a will always be 1, and this block of code will get executed forever. So in this first interaction, a is 1, and less than or equal to 10. So Python will execute this block of code. It will print 1 on the terminal, and then a will become 2. Let me show you. Run the program, and you'll see numbers from 1 to 10. I can also change 10 to 500 to make it loop more. And now you will see numbers from 1 to 500. It's more easier and shorter than 500 lines of printing codes. Now let me show you something really cool. First, I will change this number to something like 20. Instead of printing I want to print an expression. So I'm going to multiply I by a string, a question mark. Now you might get confused here, because earlier I told you that in Python we cannot concatenate number to a string, but here I'm using multiplication operator. Well, this is different. We can multiply a number with a string, and this will repeat the string based on the value of that number. So if I is 1, we are going to see 1 question mark. If I is 10, we are going to see 10 question mark. Let me show you. So when you run this program, we are going to see the question marks has been printed based on the value of I. Before, we learned about 3 types of data in Python. We have numbers, which can be integers or floats. We have booleans and strings. These are what you refer to as permuted or basic types in Python. Now in Python, we also have a bunch of complex types as well. These complex types are very useful when building real applications. Now we're going to talk about lists. We use list whenever you want to represent a list of objects, like a list of numbers or a list of names. Let me show you. So I'm going to declare a variable called names and set it to a list of names. So here we add a pair of square brackets to represent a list. And now we can add one or more objects inside this list. In this list, we'll add a bunch of names, like James, Thomas, Michael, Andrew, and Charlie. So we separate these elements as items using commas. Now let's print our list. So print names. Take a look. It comes out exactly like how we wrote it. Also, we can get individual elements in the list. For example, if you want to get the first element in this list, here we'll type a pair of square brackets. And inside the square brackets, we'll type an index. The index of first element in this list is 0. So now when you run this program, we are going to see James on the terminal. Now in Python, we can also use negative index. So if 0 represents first element in this list, what do you think negative 1 represents? It represents the last element in this list. Let's verify it. So let's run the program, and here's Charlie. What about negative 2? Well, they represent the second element from the end of the list. So let's run the program, and here's Andrew. Now we can also change an object at a given index. For example, let's say here we made a mistake. This Thomas should not spelled with H, so we need to reset it. We type names, pair of square brackets, and 1. Now we can treat this like a regular variable. So we'll set it to a new value. Set it to Thomas without H. Now let's print our list. And here's our updated list. We can also select a range of values. For example, let's say we are only interested in the first 3 names. So over here we'll need to type square brackets, and here we need to type 2 indexes, a start index and an end index. Our start index is 0 because we want to start from here, and our end index will be 3, so we'll add colon 3. So Python is going to return all the elements from the start index up to the end index, but excluding the end index. So it's going to return elements at index 0, 1, and 2. Take a look. Here are the first 3 names, and by the way, this expression does not modify our list. It returns a new list. Also, there's plenty of methods for list like adding or removing elements, because list is also an object. First, I will type a list of numbers, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, to add a new element at the end of our list, we can use append method. So we type numbers dot append, and here we'll type 6. Now let's print our list. And you'll see that 6 has been added to our list. Wait, what if you want to insert the numbers somewhere in the middle or at the beginning of our list? For that, we can use insert method. So we're going to call the insert method instead of append method. Now here you'll type the place you want to insert the new element. Type comma, and now we'll type whatever you want to insert in your list. Strings, numbers, boolean, or any type of object in Python. I will type 0. And when we run this code, we'll see that 0 had been added to our list. We also have a method for removing our elements. I will show you. First, replace the insert method with remove method. And inside the parentheses, type the element you want to remove. In this case, we remove 4. And when we run this program, you will see that 4 has been removed from the list. Now, if you want to remove all the items from the list, we can call the clear method. This method does not need any values, so leave the parentheses empty. So let's run the program and you'll see that there's nothing in the list. Now sometimes you might want to know if a given item exists in our list or not. To do that, we use in operator. So let's remove this line. Instead of printing numbers in our list, I'm going to print an expression, 2 in numbers. So here we are using in operator. We're checking if 2 is in the number list. So this is Boolean expression. This returns a Boolean value. Take a look. We got 2 because 2 is in our number list. Obviously, if we search for a value that does not exist in our list, like 7, then we'll get false. Now finally, there could be a time when you want to know how many items are there in our list. To do that, we can use the built-in len function. So let's print len of numbers. So len is a built-in function just like a print function. That is why it's highlighted in the same color. It returns number of elements in our list. Take a look. So you have 5 elements in this list. When writing Python programs, there are times when you want to iterate over a list and access each item individually. Let me show you. So I'm going to declare a list of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now if we print this list, it comes out exactly how we wrote it. It's using the square bracket notation. But what if we wanted to print each item on a separate line? That is where we use for loop. Let me show you. So we are not going to print the entire list. Instead, we are going to type for. Now we declare a variable which is called the loop variable. Let's call it items. Then we type in and our variable name which is numbers. Next, we add a colon to start a new block of code. So this is what we call a for loop. With for loop, we can iterate over all the items in this list. In each iteration, this item variable is going to hold one value. So in the first iteration, item is going to be equal to 1, and the second iteration is going to be equal to 2, and so on. So now if we print item and run the program, we can see each item on a new line. So this is how we use a for loop. Could also archive the same thing using a while loop, but our code will be a little bit longer, so we'll use different loop functions for different situations. Now we are going to talk about the range function in Python. We use the range function to generate a sequence of numbers. Let me show you. So we are going to type range. This is also a built-in function like print and input functions. Here we can pass a value like 10, and this will return a range of object. A range object is an object that can store a sequence of numbers. So let's call the number variable. So this is a range of object. In this object, we are going to have the numbers from 0 to 10. Now, if we print numbers, we are going to see this message, range of 0 to 10, not the actual numbers, because this is the default representation of a range object. To see the actual numbers, we need to iterate over this range object using a for loop. Before I showed you how to iterate over a list using a for loop. But we can also iterate over a range object using a for loop. Basically, we can use the for loop with any object that represents a sequence of objects. So instead of printing numbers, we are going to use a for loop. For number in numbers colon. Press enter and we are going to print numbers. Now we see the numbers from 0 to 9. So range of 10 generates a sequence of numbers, starting from 0 up to the numbers we declared right here. Now if we supply two values 5 and 10, the first value is going to be considered as the starting value, and the second value is going to be considered as the ending value, and this will be excluded. So range of 5 to 10 is going to generate numbers from 5 to 9. There we go. Now we can even supply a third value, and that will be used as a step. So let's say instead of having a sequence of numbers like 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, we are going to jump two numbers at a time. So it'll be 5, 7, 9, and so on. So here we'll pass 2 as a step. So we got these numbers using 2 as the step. Now we are going to talk about tuples in Python. Tuples are kind of like lists. We use them to store a sequence of objects. But tuples are immutable, which means we cannot change them once we create them. I'm going to start by defining a list of numbers. One, 2, 3, and again 3. Now we use square brackets to define a list, and parentheses to define a tuple. So now this numbers variable is storing a tuple. If we try to reassign this, let's say the first element, we are going to get an error, saying that tuple objects does not support item assignment. So this is what I meant by tuples are immutable. They are unchangeable. Also, if we type numbers, dot, you're not going to see any methods like append, insert, clear, remove, and so on. We only have count and index. Count returns the number of occurrence of an element. For example, if we have two 3's in this tuple and call count of 3, this will return 2, because there are two 3's in this tuple. The other method we have here is index, and this returns the index of the first occurrence of the given element. Now these other methods you see right here that starts with an underscores, they are called matching methods. It's an advanced topic that we are not going to talk about right now. So this was basic of Python. Hope this video was helpful to you.